Throughout the history of our species, humankind has searched for answers to the roaring thunder above, the trembling of the ground beneath, and the dazzling stars scattered across the heavens. We've long held an instinctive urge to explain what we could not understand. In our earliest moments, that explanation often came in the form of an almighty being, a force unseen, omnipotent, orchestrating the intricacies of our universe. From the dawn of civilization, human beings have looked to the skies with wonder and fear. Thunder cracked like the voice of an unseen god. The sun rose and set with divine regularity, and the moon waxed and waned like a celestial heartbeat. To the earliest minds, the world was not just alive. It was conscious, directed by forces far greater than themselves. In caves and on temple walls, they etched stories of gods who through lightning controlled harvests and demanded sacrifice. These myths were not foolishness. They were the first attempts to understand a world that often felt overwhelming. They reflected the best tool early humans had at the time, imagination. But with time, another force emerged: curiosity. A different kind of wonder that did not merely accept stories, but asked questions. Why does the sun rise? What causes the tides? Why do the stars move across the night sky? As humans spread across continents and built societies, they brought with them questions that demanded more than myth could satisfy. The earliest astronomers in Mesopotamia noticed that stars moved in patterns. In ancient Greece, philosophers began proposing ideas based on logic and reason. The seeds of science were sown not to reject the idea of a higher power, but to explore the mechanics of existence. Slowly, human beings began to notice that nature had rules. Apples fell not because the gods willed it, but because of gravity. Illness was not always the result of sin, but of invisible organisms. The planets did not dance at random, but followed elegant orbits governed by laws of motion. What once seemed mystical began to be measurable. Telescopes revealed that the stars were not holes in a celestial dome, but burning suns, scattered across a vast and ancient cosmos. Microscopes unveiled worlds within drops of water, life invisible to the naked eye, yet organized and purposeful. These instruments, humble in appearance, allowed human beings to peer deeper than myth ever could. Each discovery did not diminish the beauty of the world, but added to it. A rainbow was no less wondrous because it was understood to be the refraction of light through water droplets. It was more so because the process itself was extraordinary. The shift from divine storytelling to empirical observation was not immediate. It was slow, uneven, and often resisted. But it happened because humans could not stop asking questions. The more we looked at nature, the more we found that it was not chaotic. It was patterned. The same forces that guided an apple to the ground were the ones that moved the planets. The same energy that fueled the sun's fire could one day be harnessed to power cities. This shift from myth to method represents one of the most profound changes in human thought. It is not a rejection of wonder, but a redefinition of it. Scientific inquiry replaced superstition not with cold detachment, but with precision and clarity. To learn that lightning is the result of electrical discharge within clouds does not make it less powerful. It makes it more remarkable that such forces are present in our atmosphere, operating under laws we can understand. To know that life evolved over billions of years from simple molecules into sentient beings does not make life less sacred. It makes it more fragile, more precious, more worthy of protection. This curiosity, this hunger to understand, is what led humans to sail across oceans, to decode the structure of DNA, to land on the moon. It is what continues to push us into the depths of the ocean and the outer edges of space. It is not born of defiance, but of reverence for the real, for the observable, for the truth that lies just beyond what we know today. When we observe the world around us, we notice something profound. The natural world is not random or erratic, but consistent, structured, and governed by laws. From the smallest particles that make up atoms to the galaxies, swirling at the edge of the known universe, everything behaves according to specific patterns. The tides rise and fall with the moon's gravitational pull. The seasons change as the earth orbits the sun. Water freezes at 0 degrees Celsius, and light travels at a fixed speed. These are not decisions made in the moment by an unseen force, but the outcomes of laws that have held since the beginning of time. Science, through observation and inquiry, has slowly uncovered these laws, and each discovery brings us closer to understanding the intricacies of the universe. We have learned that these patterns are so reliable, so measurable, that we can use them to build bridges, launch spacecraft, cure diseases, and predict the weather. There is no sign of arbitrary interference. There is no sign of sudden divine redirection. What we find instead is continuity, precision, and balance. The idea of attributing every storm, every harvest, every illness to an almighty power was once comforting and even necessary. It allowed early humans to make sense of a dangerous and confusing world. But as we developed the tools to observe more deeply and more accurately, we began to see that natural phenomena have natural causes. Lightning strikes are not the result of divine wrath, but electrical charges within clouds. Earthquakes are caused by shifting tectonic plates, not mythical anger beneath the ground. Diseases are not curses, but the work of microscopic bacteria and viruses. These discoveries have not only expanded our knowledge, but saved lives, shaped societies, and lifted the veil from nature's operations. The structure of DNA, the framework of life itself, is another testament to the power of natural processes. A 4-letter code, repeating in specific sequences, builds every living creature on the planet. That this complexity can arise through replication, mutation, and selection without conscious design reveals the creative force of natural law. It shows that over time, through countless generations, life can diversify and adapt with astonishing success. These are not events requiring a guiding hand, but the result of cause and effect. What was once attributed to miracle or mystery can now be traced, studied, and understood. The movement of the stars, once thought to be controlled by celestial beings, now maps out the history of the universe. We can calculate the life cycle of a star, understand how planets form, and even estimate the age of the cosmos. With mathematics and observation, we track galaxies moving away from us, revealing the expansion of the universe. These movements follow gravitational laws, not spiritual will. No matter how far we look, the same rules apply. There is no celestial region where these laws break down to make room for divine interference. Even the randomness of quantum physics exists within measurable probabilities, governed by mathematical rules. Every field of science, from biology to physics to chemistry, is built upon the foundation of predictability. When a scientist performs an experiment, They expect that repeating it under the same conditions will produce the same result. This consistency allows for understanding, for trust, and for progress. If the world operated under the changing will of an unseen power, we would not have the technology, the medicine, or the knowledge we possess today. The regularity of nature proves that it is not dependent on supernatural whims. It stands as evidence that the universe, in all its complexity, follows rules that are discoverable, consistent, and deeply elegant. The power that governs existence is not invisible and unknowable. It is in the formulas we've written, the theories we've tested, and the reality we observe with open eyes. The complexity and diversity of life have long been sources of wonder and mystery. For much of human history, people looked at the intricacies of the natural world: feathers that allow birds to fly, eyes that perceive color, ecosystems that maintain balance, and concluded that such precision must be the result of a conscious, divine design. It's understandable. When faced with beauty and complexity, the mind instinctively searches for purpose. But over time, with careful observation and methodical study, another explanation emerged, an explanation that required no designer, only time, chance, and the incredible adaptability of life itself. That explanation is evolution by natural selection, a process that explains how simple organisms, over millions and billions of years, gave rise to the breathtaking diversity of species we see today. Through fossils, genetics, comparative anatomy, and embryology, we've pieced together a narrative of life's history that is far richer and more detailed than any myth could offer. We've seen how life begins from a single cell and gradually changes, generation after generation, shaped by its environment and the challenges it faces. The eye did not appear fully formed overnight. It evolved incrementally from simple light, sensitive patches in primitive creatures, to the complex, image-producing organs found in humans and other animals. Each stage offered some advantage, however slight, and over time, these advantages accumulated. What appears to be miraculous design is in fact the outcome of countless adaptations, small improvements favored by survival. The elegance of this process lies in its simplicity. There is no need for pre-written blueprints or supernatural guidance. Life is driven by variation, random mutations in genetic code, and filtered by selection, which favors traits that enhance reproduction and survival. It is a process that is unguided, yet not chaotic. It follows rules, yet remains flexible. It allows for both the spider and the whale, the hummingbird and the elephant, each uniquely suited to their niche in nature's tapestry. These forms are not fixed or sacred. Species go extinct, adapt, or give rise to new species. Life is not static. It is always in motion, always changing, always responding to the environment around it. One of the most profound insights from evolutionary biology is that humans are not separate from this process. We are a part of it. We are not the pinnacle of creation, but one branch of the same tree of life that includes every organism on this planet. Our DNA is 98% identical to that of chimpanzees. We share genes with mice, with flies, even with bacteria. This shared genetic heritage is not a belief or an opinion. It is a measurable, testable fact. It tells a story not of divine intervention, but of deep and ancient connections that unite all living things. To say that evolution explains life without the need for an almighty power is not to strip the world of meaning. On the contrary, it adds to its wonder that something so intricate, so harmonious, and so resilient could arise from natural processes over unimaginable spans of time is a testament to the creativity of nature itself. The fossil record does not point to sudden appearances, but gradual transitions. The genetic code does not suggest design from above, but inheritance from ancestors. The struggle for survival, the competition for mates, the adaptation to changing climates, these are the forces that sculpt life, not commands from an unseen creator. Understanding evolution reshapes how we see ourselves. It humbles us. It reminds us that we are not the center of the universe, but part of a vast, interconnected web of life. We are the product of the same processes that shaped every other creature, from the tiniest insect to the towering trees. And through science we are able to uncover that story, not through revelation, but through evidence, curiosity, and the courage to ask how life truly came to be. In the vastness of the cosmos, with its black holes, nebulae, and swirling galaxies, there exists a common assumption that such magnificence must surely point to a designer. To many, the elegance of the universe, its balance, and its apparent order imply a mind behind the matter, a will behind the way. But as we peer deeper into the structure of space, time, and matter, a different truth emerges, one that doesn't rely on intention, but on natural consequence. Order, it turns out, can arise without conscious design. Complex systems can evolve from simple beginnings. Structures can emerge from chaos. What appears as deliberate planning may in fact be the product of interaction, repetition, and the laws of physics playing out over immense scales of time. From snowflakes forming perfect symmetrical patterns to galaxies shaped by gravity, nature shows us again and again that beauty and symmetry need no hand to carve them. They are not decorations, but consequences. The molecules of water align in specific ways because of their atomic charges, resulting in ice crystals of stunning geometry. Galaxies spin and form arms not because someone intended it, but because gravity pulls and inertia sustains. These are not signs of design. They are the footprints of natural law. The illusion of intent vanishes when we understand the underlying mechanisms. Lightning doesn't choose to strike, and rivers don't choose their paths. They follow gradients, pressures, and energy, and through them, they carve canyons and light up the sky. One of the most illustrative examples of self-organization is found in the world of fractals. A fern's leaf, a Romanesque broccoli, the branching of trees, or the shape of coastlines, all exhibit repeating patterns that emerge naturally. There is no blueprint, no architect, no central controller. These patterns arise from local interactions and simple rules repeating over and over. The result is complexity that appears deliberate, but is entirely natural. In ecosystems, species find niches not by design, but through interaction and adaptation. Coral reefs, rainforests, and wetlands become rich with biodiversity, not through planning, but through time and opportunity. Symbiotic relationships develop, not because they are planned, but because they are beneficial and endure. The brain, that great enabler of thought and reason, is itself a network formed not by instruction, but by interaction. Neurons grow and connect, responding to signals and stimuli. Patterns of thought, memory, emotion, and consciousness emerge from physical processes. These intricate connections create minds capable of reflecting on the very forces that shaped them. And yet, even this incredible complexity comes not from a moment of creation, but from billions of years of molecular chemistry, evolution, and environmental shaping. In the world of physics, the second law of thermodynamics tells us that systems tend toward disorder, yet locally, order can emerge through energy flows. Hurricanes, stars, even the structure of crystals, all arise from gradients of energy. They form, change, and disappear, not because they were intended to, but because they must, given the conditions. From a cloud of gas to the birth of a star, from particles colliding to galaxies rotating, each phenomenon reveals a universe not of chaos, but of consequence. To say that everything must be designed because it looks purposeful is to underestimate the power of time, scale, and repetition. It is to overlook the natural processes that, given the right conditions, produce beauty, balance, and structure. We do not need an invisible artist to explain the patterns in sand dunes, the shapes of river deltas, or the hexagonal eye of an insect. These patterns emerge because the universe operates with rules, rules we can study, understand, and even predict. And through these rules, nature produces outcomes that are often mistaken for intention, when in fact they are evidence of something even more fascinating, that out of apparent chaos, nature sculpts its own silent order. To walk through an ancient rainforest, to listen to the layered sounds of birdsong, the rustle of leaves, the distant calls of unseen creatures, is to feel something profound stir within the human spirit, to witness a volcanic eruption, to feel the ground tremble beneath your feet as fire bursts from the earth's crust, is to experience both awe and insignificance. Throughout life on earth, from the coral reefs teeming with color and activity to the silent frost-covered tundras of the north, the planet offers endless moments of wonder. These experiences inspire reverence, but that reverence need not be directed toward an unseen force or a divine being. Instead, it can be directed toward the earth itself, toward the intricate systems that sustain life, toward the billions of years that have shaped what we see. The natural world earns respect not through belief, but through understanding. When we study the interdependence of ecosystems, we find layers of complexity that rival the most intricate of human creations. A rainforest is not merely a collection of trees, but a living system in which every organism plays a role. Fungi decompose dead matter and return nutrients to the soil. Insects pollinate plants, ensuring the next generation of growth. Birds and mammals spread seeds, regenerating forests. This harmony is not the product of command, but of evolution, cooperation, and adaptation. It functions not because it was planned, but because it works. It survives because it is balanced. To know that this has occurred without central control, without divine blueprint, is to admire nature not as a product of a creator, but as a masterwork of time and process. The reverence one feels standing before a vast canyon or looking up at a star-filled sky is not diminished by the absence of a deity. If anything, it becomes deeper. To realize that no one constructed these wonders, that they came into being through erosion, pressure, gravity, and time, makes them more extraordinary. There was no hand chiseling the cliffs of the Grand Canyon, no mind arranging the rings of Saturn. These are natural occurrences, shaped by the rules of physics and the forces of geology and cosmology. Their magnificence is real, not imagined, and it is made all the more meaningful by the knowledge that they are the result of processes we can study and comprehend. When people attribute natural beauty to divine will, they often overlook the resilience and struggle behind it. A single flower in bloom is not just a symbol of grace. It is the final stage of survival, the outcome of successful pollination, favorable weather, and genetic inheritance. A predator catching its prey is not an act of violence blessed by fate, but a necessary moment in the food chain that sustains ecosystems. These events are not guided by morality or intention. They are part of the machinery of life, and within that machinery there is room for awe, not because a god orchestrated it, but because nature evolved it. Reverence, in this sense, becomes a form of respect not for a creator, but for creation itself. It is a call to protect what exists, not because it is sacred, but because it is rare and fragile. When we understand the forces that shaped the planet, we begin to realize our place in it. We are not above nature, not separate from it, and certainly not chosen to dominate it. We are part of the system, subject to the same laws and vulnerable to the same disruptions. This understanding carries a moral weight, not imposed by religion, but inspired by reality. It calls for responsibility, for stewardship, for humility. Not because a higher power demands it, but because the natural world deserves it. And in this view, awe becomes not a reason to worship, but a reason to act. To look at the earth today is to witness a delicate balance under immense threat. The forests that once stretched endlessly across continents are vanishing acre by acre. Oceans, once brimming with life, are becoming acidic, rising and littered with plastic. Species that took millions of years to evolve are disappearing within decades. Coral reefs bleach and die, glaciers retreat, and weather patterns grow increasingly erratic. All of these changes are not caused by cosmic shifts or divine retribution, but by the actions of one species, humans. If ever there were a moment to reflect on our place in the natural world, it is now. And that reflection requires more than prayer or faith. It requires responsibility grounded in evidence, driven not by fear of judgment from above, but by understanding the systems we are disrupting. The earth does not punish, it reacts. It responds to carbon in the atmosphere, to deforestation, to pollution. These are not spiritual consequences. They are scientific ones, observable, measurable, and increasingly urgent. Throughout history, belief in a higher power often brought with it a sense of detachment from consequence. Floods and famines were seen as divine tests, diseases as punishment, and natural disasters as signs from the heavens. This world, due while comforting to some, can obscure the role that human activity plays in shaping outcomes. It fosters the idea that a divine being ultimately controls everything, absolving individuals from the responsibility to act or change. But as science has shown, our choices have tangible effects. When we burn fossil fuels, we release greenhouse gases. When we clear rainforests, we remove natural carbon sinks. When we overfish, we collapse ecosystems. The evidence is not hidden. It is in satellite imagery, in temperature records, in the migration patterns of animals forced from their habitats. And understanding this evidence is the first step toward addressing the damage. The idea that moral obligation must come from a divine authority is another limiting view. Morality can emerge from empathy, from reason, and from a recognition of interconnectedness. One does not need to believe in divine command to understand the value of preserving biodiversity, of reducing harm, of ensuring that future generations inherit a livable planet. Responsibility becomes not a matter of fear, but of knowledge. It is a deeper, more enduring motivation, one that arises from knowing the fragility of life and the rarity of our planet. In this light, science is not cold or emotionless. It is compassionate because it seeks to protect life through understanding. It empowers action through awareness, not ritual. It demands engagement, not passivity. Conservation efforts succeed not because they are blessed, but because people work tirelessly, often against economic and political odds, to protect what remains. Marine biologists tag and track fish to ensure their populations recover. Botanists propagate endangered plants in secret nurseries. Ecologists reintroduce wolves to ecosystems to restore balance. These acts are not done in the name of divine will, but in recognition of ecological necessity. They are grounded in data, in dedication, in an unwavering belief that knowledge can guide better choices. The planet does not need divine intervention. It needs informed action. It needs fewer emissions, more protected areas, better education, and cooperation that crosses borders and ideologies. When we see ourselves not as dominators of the earth, but as part of its vast evolving web, our perspective shifts. We no longer wait for salvation or miracles. We recognize that the solutions lie within our reach. Solar energy, reforestation, sustainable farming, these are not just technologies. They are lifelines. They are the product of human effort rooted in understanding, not doctrine. And in this way, science becomes a form of respect. Not worship, but reverence through responsibility. The more we learn, the more capable we are of preserving what remains. Not for reward in another world, but for the continuation of this one, for the forests yet to grow, the rivers yet to flow clean, the children yet to marvel at the natural world and see not just a place to use, but a home to protect.